faceoff. Shoots it, deflected. Right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 73 of Tendy Talk, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network and the BLPA Podcast Networks. I'm your host Joe, better known as Wash Up Goalie on social media. This week I chat with Andy Wong, a goalie I've been friends with on social for some time now, and I'm sure we've crossed paths at the rinks, but just haven't skated together yet. Oh yeah, and he was also the emergency backup to the emergency backup for the Minnesota Wild recently, and appeared in a pretty sweet music video that we'll talk about. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Andy. Andrew, thanks for joining me on the podcast. Good to actually talk to you. I mean, we've been following each other for a while, but we really haven't, we've probably even crossed paths at the rink, but haven't really talked.
I know for sure we've crossed paths at the rink because I've seen you play and I'm like, holy crap, how is this guy so flexible? And he's playing this old school style. It's so awesome to watch. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, you know, it's just good genetics, I would say. I can't even say good genetics because neither of my parents are flexible at all. It's just I was just flexible as a kid and I've stuck with it.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I used to be in high school and then I don't know, I had an MCL injury and then that was kind of I got a little wishy-washy, putting much pressure on it and kind of didn't split as much after that.
You know, I sprained my MCL, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. It's like right before all the COVID stuff. And I was worried when I came back, you know, how I would be with, you know, would I feel confident enough to try those same moves? And, you know, once I could tell my knee was fine, it was just like the brain went right back to, okay, this is what we do now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, especially in you know, the Sunday night league at the Super Rink. It's like other teams see an old guy like me go out there and they don't expect me to break out the splits on a 2-on-1 or something. It catches them by surprise. That's for sure.
I was just watching some of your videos, catching up on your YouTube channel, and there's some sick ones in there. I'm like, oh my God, just ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah. It's always...
like, I'm surprised because you got those new pads and you're still playing that old. I'm like, how is it going to work when he gets these new pads? Because I didn't know how well new pads would play with the older style, but it seems like they're working great for you.
Yeah, and you know, part of that is we consciously, when we were speccing them out over at General Sports, didn't go with the 2-inch thigh rise because we knew that would impact, you know, so I still have the 1-inch rise. Probably could have gone more if we really wanted to, but there was that thought of that would impede me playing the way I play. So
I was actually kind of thinking more of how the pad lands on the ice because with the knee stacks they really meant, and I remember switching over and because I'm an 01 grad, so I'm an 82. I kind of was never used to how I never use knee stacks. I literally I never use knee stacks growing up. Stupidest story, might have hampered any career I could have had. I was at the Let's Play Hockey Expo, and what did they have it at what was it, Thunderbird or whatever?
Out there
to do it at the Met Center or whatever, and they had like, I'm talking to Brian Heaton, and he's there, and he's telling me to buy. He's like, here's when you get these, because he was working for TPS at the time, right? And I'm like, I'm meeting with him, and I'm like, I want TPS pads because that's what Hasek has.
Yeah,
and we got the what were they contours, I think they had little beads in them supposed to kill rebounds or something.
Yeah, I know what ones you were talking about.
Yeah, so I'm talking to him and I'm like, I want the Hasek pads, and he's like, well, we can spec them out however you want them. He's like, well, you got these new knee like these thicker knee stacks. I'm like, that seems like cheating. I just used to wrench pads down on my knee because you play like Purdue, you put your knee straight down, you wouldn't stick it out, like, you know, you wouldn't slide, right? So I'm like, no, that sounds like cheating. So I just say, I blow off Brian Heaton to get what I think is right for me. What a stupid decision that was. The first time I injured my knee was actually messing around in front of shop class, and my buddy, we were wrestling, and he slips and falls on my right knee and just MCL injury. But there was a couple ones during high school that happened after that. And I'm like, well, it'd been like, it's amazing how much knee stacks help with that lesser angle that you're putting on your on your knee versus
Well,
what you use. Yeah.
I never played with the knee stack until this fall. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's like landing in a cloud these days,
Unbelievable.
how I don't have bigger knee problems than what I do have. I only sprained the MCL the one time, but taking all those pucks off the knees, in my younger years and then just landing on them. Yeah. Mornings can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Try and land
I
painkillers, right?
Yeah, I can tell when the storms are coming between the knees and then the head from concussions. I can always tell when a good storm is coming.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in the game of hockey?
For me, my dad would watch it, and
Mhm.
my dad's full Chinese, and my Chinese grandpa would watch it. And I hear him shout, and you'd hear, I'm like, Dad, what's he saying? He's like, I can't say it. I can't say it. And he would be the same way. Like he's very reactive when he's watching sports. At least back then, he kind of doesn't care anymore. I think Minnesota sports has whittled him down to not caring. So, yeah, he would watch. And I'm like, oh, hockey seems kind of fun. And like we would mess around knee hockey in the basement, and he would shoot, or I would shoot on him, and he'd like fake. I'm like, scoring was not as fun to me as making big saves, and like
Right.
I kind of set myself up to make like a bigger save than it needed to be back then. And then I think it's sort of like kind of faded a little bit. And like hockey's like a thing that exists, but and we have fun playing it, sort of playing it in the basement. And then one of my buddies, my best friends in first grade, was playing it. I'm like, well, that seems fun. I'll try it out. And then same kind of thing as I played. I was an okay skater up front, but when it came to it was Mite's pony, right? He doesn't exist anymore, I don't think.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when it came to that, I'm like full-time goalie. I just want to play goalie, and I just fell in love with the position. And I just I mean, I was pretty flexible back then. I actually had some pretty good coaches, or a good coach that kind of came up with me at that time that was not afraid to shoot hard. So I just ate it up and just loved it. Loved it. Even though I was wearing the East River Pirates stole deer hair stuff they provided you. It was just awful. I heard you talk. I can't remember which episode it was, but you were talking about the catcher's chest and
Yes.
the separate
The two.
arms that were just stuffed cotton. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like
I
teachers used to think I was getting abused at home. They're like, are things okay at home? Are things okay at home? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. But you got bruises all up and down your arm. I'm like, well, you should see what I'm getting shot at. Like a guy that got drafted, he's still teeing up on me as
Yep.
hard as I asked.
My youth association had Steve Larmer come out for an autograph signing at the rink we played at, and we're in line, and one of my teammates is like, "Yeah, this is our goalie." And Larmer looks at me, he goes, "Prove it. Where are the bruises?" It's like, "Well, do you want the ones on this arm, this arm, the legs?" And he just started laughing. He's like, "Yep, you're the goalie." And yeah, I was a squirt wearing that two-piece chest protector, and I went to rat hockey. That's what we called open hockey in Chicago.
Yep.
And there were seniors in high school out there, and this one kid just lines up for a slap shot, from the hash marks, and gets me right in the shoulder, like right here.
Yeah.
I go down. That was the end of rat hockey for me.
Yeah.
And mom and dad, they just dropped me off. It's not like they were there. It was like Christmas break or something. So they dropped me off, and like I'm just sitting at the rink trying to get my stuff off by myself for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then dad comes, and I was like, "No, Dad, you need to carry my bag." He's like, "No, you do." I was like, "No, I can't move my arm, Dad." And he looks, he's like, "God, Jesus, better take you to the doctor for that one." We go, and like they were worried like I broke something, but x-rays and stuff, because it immediately bruised, and x-rays came back negative. And the doctor, he's a family doctor of ours. Funny story, we were looking for a family doctor, and I was playing little league, and his kid was on the team, and we just started going to him. And so after that, he was our family doctor, just an awesome guy. So he kind of knew us as our sense of humor and everything, but he's like, gonna have to write you a prescription though. And my dad's like, "Oh, pain meds? He goes, no, you need to buy him a new modern chest protector. So we got in the car and drove, because at that time there weren't many pro shops in Chicago. So we went to the legendary Gunzo's up on the north side.
Sure.
And I got a Furland chest protector. I remember it was all white because, we didn't wash our stuff like kids do now. And so in that white and, the stinking stuff of hockey, you could see the mold growing on it. So
yeah.
I haven't had a white chest protector since then.
Yeah, as long as it's yellow and not black, right? That kind of helps when you know how infected it is or whatever it was with the white ones. It's like, God, why did we ever pick that color?
Yeah. Well, I would take that thing out in the summertime with bleach water and scrub it down. It was just a spring tradition of taking that thing out there and scrubbing it down. And
I still hose my chest and my chest and my breezers off come summertime. So
yeah, I've found just hanging them up after every single skate religiously. If I don't do it when I get home from the rink the very next morning, I got to do that. And that makes such a big difference. And I don't think people realize how important that is.
So, what's big for me is I have like my house came with like, when I bought my house worst possible time back in the first recession. So, but it happened to come with a dehumidifier. And I took this basement dehumidifier and I have a closet in my stairway that I put all my hockey gear in. It's meant for a full basement. I just turn it on. I have all my stuff on shelves in there. It's dry. It's like crispy dry within 6 hours. And that's
nice.
It kills the stink. It kills it doesn't let stuff, get worse than it is.
Right.
That's a big, I recommend that to anyone. I know some of those rocket cooler, have you seen those? The fans?
Yeah. And they have like the ozone fan that will kill the microbes too.
Yeah. Who knows how well that works? As long as it's dry though, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Worst thing is putting your equipment on when it's either still wet or cold, or the worst, the combination of wet and cold.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. I actually found a project online. Some guy up in Canada had them and sent them to me and built like a pro style locker for out in the garage. And my wife was like, do we really need this? I was like, yes. Otherwise it's just sitting on random hooks in the garage.
Right.
Looks nice. And she's come around to it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There's got to be some like spec sheets out there. Someone else has had to make one of those. I wonder if there's like a DIY sort of thing.
Well, he sent the measurements and everything. I actually wrote a blog post on my website and put it out there, and
oh, nice.
It's probably my top viewed page on my website all the time. Is people are always going there, and I got all of the I got the cut list and everything on there. So I've played around with it on the one CAD program and made enhancements to it. I just haven't built a new one yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Sounds like you got a side business going. If you ever need to make some extra money, there's plenty of people in Minnesota that would love that.
Oh, I know. I've thought about that. I want to try maybe making the updated version this summer, but in the back of my mind, I'm going, how do I do it while also making templates for, some of the more intricate parts? So all I have to do is run the router with the bearing, along the template and make life easy.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Because I almost moved to Nashville this summer with the family, and we weren't going to move the locker. And one of the kids I used to coach is like, well, can I have the locker then for my stuff? Is like, absolutely, but I got to move for you to get it. And when we decided not to move, he's like, so I guess I don't get the locker, do I? I was like, no. I was like, but I got the plans if you want to build one. He's like, okay, that works.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Then it's on him.
Yeah, exactly. Now, knowing him, he probably won't build it. I call him a kid. He's only like 4 or 5 years younger than me, because I coached in Forest Lake right after I graduated college. So it was
So what year did you graduate then?
I graduated college in 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Forest Lake, because I knew, do you know like Kogler or Hyder?
Yeah, Jake Kogler was on the team when I was coaching there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I skate with him in that Greasy Mitts 3v3 league.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. That league's a blast. You get a kick out of that one. So
yeah, Jake was a funny kid. Good hockey player, as you know.
He's still amazing. Amazing.
And but he was just one of those an odd duck. Probably could have been a goalie personality wise if you wanted to.
He would hate to hear that. You have no idea. So
yeah. Oh, I know. He never had any reverence for our goalies. Like he
No,
wanted to
he
hit
still
him in the
doesn't.
head, hurt him. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like he has the personality of a goalie.
Yeah. No, so we every week in that league we'll vote top plays and whatever. If goalies are in the top three, he's just angry about it. And I like, but yeah, he's a great like team to build up. Like he's the backbone of the team in a 3v3s. He's just sick both ways. It's fun to
Yeah,
play with him,
he's got some hands. He scored some big timely goals for us when I was coaching there.
so. Awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed coaching. The only reason I got out is we had kids, and it was like I can't be spending 6 nights a week at
So
the
much time.
rink. Yeah, you know.
I helped coach with the Minneapolis high school group right when Dietz came in over there.
Mhm.
I was in there with him and Chorsky and Dave Shute, and him and Dave Shute are coaching them right now.
I was gonna say, so
And
you're gonna be pulling for them.
I'm going there tonight. So
Nice.
I'm so excited to see that. It's such a cool thing. I know it's been like a long, it's been a
Yeah.
long battle to build that system up again. I mean, it's such an odd situation. So for those of the folks that are listening that aren't from cities, Minneapolis, you would think would just be this powerhouse because it's like Minneapolis is a big city, obviously, and
Yeah.
it used to be divided into a bunch of different schools.
Yep.
So now it used to be Southwest, South, Edison. Who else am I missing here? Washburn, but all of them, so how it is now is there's a bunch of private schools in the area, and the Storm system is all of the Minneapolis system. All the Minneapolis kids mostly go to Storm,
It's
and
a
then
co-op.
yep. So and then what happens is like the top tier kids in the past had always gone to the private schools in the area, which are great schools, good education. I understand it, but it kind of shattered the Minneapolis public school teams, and now they have the conglomerate, and the conglomerate was in the single A. There's single A and double A in Minnesota, and now since Dietz came on, it's been getting better and better and better and better. And this year, tonight, depending on when you're listening to this, they're going to state, and I'm so happy for them. It's been a long road there. So
It's the first time since what they say 1994 that a Minneapolis school has been in the tournament.
I think since Dietz was playing for Edison.
Yeah, and
So
I mean,
I think that's yeah.
they have the same issue on the other side of the river in St. Paul. Johnson is probably the only St. Paul school still to have a team, but that's a co-op now too, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Who are they paired?
I think they still play under the Johnson Governors, but it's basically
they took in because Como folded, and then
yep.
they might be in with yeah. So
Yeah, and I think the only reason they're still playing under the Johnson Governors is because that's where Herb Brooks played.
sure. Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, they probably would, like Minneapolis, gone with like a St. Paul, generic team name rather than keep one school. I would assume, but
Right.
yeah,
And it's interesting. Like I guess I mean for people that don't live in Minnesota, the nice thing about Minnesota is like hockey, at least at the high school during the season level, is very affordable.
mhm.
Where I had no idea. So I went to one of those GGSU
Yeah,
deals out in Chicago. Kind of like
that
I
would
got
have been
time off.
awesome.
It was pretty fun. You would have been on the very high end of the folks out there, and I was like, okay, well, but it was a great experience. The guys, the coaches were really fun, like fun to work with. And
What rink was that at?
Was it 7 Three Rivers something?
Oh, probably Seven Bridges.
Seven Bridges. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's got the 3 sheets. In fact, I skated at that rink when it first opened, and they had the electric Zamboni with the cord. And
oh, really?
it was one of those where the Zamboni drivers too many times almost got their heads taken off that they replaced them. But that's actually where the Blackhawks practiced during the 94, 95 lockout. They would gather out there and skate together.
So the mission systems out there, or whatever.
Yep.
I could not. So I was kind of like, oh, I'm looking at these coaches, and I'm like, that coach, I recognize him as some ex-NHL guy. I'm like, how much these kids pay here? They're like, oh yeah, it's like $15,000 a year. I'm like,
yeah,
what the? It's insane. It's insane. How can people afford that? Minnesota is the youth is kind of, I mean, it's, what is it? 5 now? 2 to 5,000.
Yeah,
I guess.
it depends on the association, but that's what the association fees are. It doesn't include your travel and tournament
Summer.
fees, summer. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but I growing up there. So one thing that Chicago has that I wish we had here in Minnesota was house league hockey, and it is somebody on one of the GGSU boards put it even better. Is it's travel house, because it's not just playing. You know, I played for St. Jude, and it's not just playing house league for St. Jude. We played St. Jude, Oaklawn, Homewood, Flossmoor, and the Chicago Hawks. So there's like 4 or 5 rinks in a small area. It'd be like playing, you know, I live up in the Hugo White area. It'd be like Hugo, Forest Lake, Stillwater. It'd be like that area. But then instead of having 4 or 5 travel teams for every age level, they had 2. You had your A team and your B team, and that was it. Everybody else went and played house league hockey, and it was still good hockey. I mean, the only reason I didn't play travel hockey is, you know, mom and dad both worked.
Yeah.
So traveling weekends and everything, you know, it just, we could have relied on other parents, but that's not the kind of people we were to, you know, I mean, yeah, we relied on each other sometimes because people were working, but that's just getting you to and from practice. But taking you out of town is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
So, you know, there were a lot of kids I played with in high school and against in high school. They just played house league hockey. And then we made our high school team. Some of us went on to play college hockey too, but it's like, I like that idea of travel house. That's the best way to explain it. And I think more states need that. And I think if they had that, you'd see more kids playing. My son would have played hockey if we had that.
There was something, I mean, when I was growing up, I do remember travel and house, but I don't know how it all broke down. And that, I mean, that was, you know, I'm an 82. So
yeah, you know how it broke down is these associations started to realize how much money these weekend tournaments could bring in and how much, you know, money they could bring in with travel teams. And it all came down to parents ruining it for the kids. You know, as Yogi Berra used to say, youth sports are good. It keeps the parents off the streets.
I love that.
That's
I
what,
heard that.
yeah. I love Yogi Berra. He's one of my favorite historical athletes. And I read a book of yogiism. So what was great is it explained the stories behind it. So, you know, his, when you reach fork in the road, take it. It actually makes sense when you hear the context behind it. So he lived on a road where the road split and then it came back together, and he lived right after where it came back together. So he's like, well, when you reach the fork in the road, take it. Doesn't matter which way you go, you're going to get to my house. You know, so yeah, that one. And then the place is so popular, nobody goes there anymore. It was him and his Yankee buddies would go to this one restaurant. People found out about it. They started going because the food was good. Well, it was so popular, the Yankees didn't go there anymore. So it's like when you start to hear the stories behind it, and then the one he didn't have an explanation for is when he was coaching, and he told the players, okay, now go pair up into threes. And they're all standing there going, pairs are twos, not threes. So he's like, yeah, I don't have an explanation for that one.
I mean, yeah, you coach, you end up saying something stupid at some point. You're like, what am I doing?
I mean, if you don't have a list of, you know, whatever your coach's name is, and then isms, are you a good coach?
Yeah.
You know, in fact, that first year I started coaching, Jerry Parzino was our head coach, and like we had our Jerryisms, and he was one of those guys. He was smart enough to know that at times you had to just fire the kids up, and sometimes that meant walking in there and being angry, even if you weren't angry. And there was the one time he told me and the other coach, he's like, all right, just stay outside. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do something. He goes in there. We hear F this, F that. We hear him kick a garbage can. And then he comes back out and he's smiling. He goes, that was fun. I think they'll have it. It was just so funny because like he wasn't mad at all, but he's like, I think that's what they need. You know,
the garbage can's always a good default too, because it's I mean, at least in the youth hockey, I've not heard of that lately. I mean, obviously for good reason, I guess, but I don't know. It's just such a, you know, it puts on such a show when you kick a garbage can over, and the worst thing that's flying out is some tape and spit.
But it was always funny because he kicked many a garbage can. And when he knocked him over, he was such a nice guy. He would automatically like set it back up and start taking all of the garbage and putting it back in there. So it's like, even though he's, because sometimes he was mad and he'd kick it, and it like he's still yelling at the kids, picking up the stuff. And it was just like, just funny. Then there was some of my players will remember this one. I'm laying into him on something between periods and a phone's going off. And this was, before smartphones, but texting was still fairly new. Everybody still had their flip phone, their Nextels, and somebody's phone's ringing. And then I lay into him. I'm like, what is the rule in the locker room? All cell phones are out, blah, blah, blah. And then the three of us coaches walk out, and I pull my cell phone out of my pocket, and I go, oh, looks like I've got a missed phone call. we never told the boys that one.
Of course
but
not.
It was like,
can't do that.
Yeah, it was just one of those,
Sends a message, right?
Yeah, but those are the fun moments of coaching that I think players just don't know about, where it's like, those are the times. The stuff that goes on in the coaches room sometimes is just amusing. The things you want to say to the players but never do, because you can't. And we had one. It was report card time. So no, it was we actually had midterm progress reports. And so we get them for the kids, and those that have bad grades were calling in. We had one kid, his parents are really hard on him. They want him to get all A's and everything. And like, he got an A-. And so we called him in just to see how he was doing. Cause like, we know mom and dad, and he's like, I'm doing fine. I've talked to my teacher already. He just hadn't graded something. I turned it, and we're like, okay, we're worried about you. And he's like, okay. And then we call in this next kid, and he's got like 3 F's and 2 D's. And the one guy that's coaching with us, he just finished playing a year in the ECHL during the lockout season, nonetheless. So, he's like, and he had his degree in education. So he's a teacher at the school. And he looks at the kid, he goes, how stupid are you? He goes, because you're not that stupid, because it takes more work and effort to fail a class these days than it does to pass 100%. One. And he goes, and you're failing 3 of them. So, like, what's the deal? And then it's like, well, just so you know, you can't skate with the team till the grades come up. Somehow within a week, all of his grades were at least at a C. It's like, shocking. But Aaron was like, all you have to do is show up to class and breathe, and you're going to pass. He's like, what are you doing? Just laid into him. And I digress.
The modern coach is a weird thing. Cause when I first started the first right away, one of the goalies had a bad game. He's like, it's rough on the ride home on the bus. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's a bad game. It happens. We lost. It's not your fault. He's like, it's not just that, man. I'm just getting barked at all over Twitter. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't even think about that. Like, think about, because I mean, honestly, when you're a high school goalie, your worst enemy is your head. It's not the other team, it's your own head. Just staying collected, because your body can do everything it needs to do. Yeah, but it's your head, and then you just add that layer. I'm like, what the? It's too much.
If I was a high school goalie today, I would probably still be on social, but I would have comments and all of that turned off.
No DMs, don't mention me, because only my friends. I don't know how anyone could deal with it. As a 16, 17, 18, 19 or hopefully not 19, but
some of those Iron Range teams, you never know.
It's not Little League baseball, so
no, but I hadn't thought about that. especially in the state tournament, because you see it more in the single A class than you do the double A class, where I think Ward won 5-0 this morning, because Monticello, they're not a bad team. It's just. But that goalie is probably looking on Twitter or whatever the kids are on these days that we haven't heard about yet, and somebody's roasting them. Because when I coach, I was also the sports writer in Forest Lake for their small local newspaper. So I kept an eye on, at the time, the message boards, and there was one specifically for high school hockey. And some of the stuff, the Elk River Alcoholics, as they called themselves, and and these were grown men, going
Come
back and
on.
forth, rating
Yeah,
these
yeah.
kids. And it's like, come on, we're,
Like, let them be
chill out.
kids. It's
Yeah.
yeah, that's gross. It's
Let,
gross.
let the team be part of the fabric of your community, but don't tear them down and
Oh,
destroy them for a bad game. Let them be kids. If they do succeed, yeah, build them up, celebrate them. But, for most of them, the last time they take that high school sweater off is the last time they're taking a sweater off for competitive hockey.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Was for me. So
it's, it should have been for me, but I was just stubborn and didn't let it happen, and somehow still sat on the bench for 4 years in college.
you went to St. Mary's, right?
Yeah, I went to
Okay.
St. Mary's. I was in the program, as I say. I played JV, and it's funny because one of my teammates, you've probably seen him at the rinks, Alan Knowles. He played at Hermantown.
I think I have, yeah.
Yeah, he plays. I think he says he plays his men's league games down at Parade in Minneapolis with the team. But he's an interesting kid. He was adopted out of South Korea. And grew up in Hermantown. He's like, I fit in real well. But he made the varsity team and everything else, but he quit junior year. This is another fun story, but I was like, yeah, it's just, the backup JV goal. He's like, dude, you still played college hockey. You were in the program. I was like, I know, but it's not like I was a starter any of those 4 years or anything. He goes, doesn't matter, so
I got kind of so I never actually played anywhere. So I played for Fridley, and I never really played anywhere after. I quit for like 5 years, had dreams about playing hockey, and like, I got to get back into it. My brother was going at the U at the time, and he's like, oh, I'm going to play for the intramural team. And he was like, he was in a frat, which is really weird. He's not a frat guy at all. And he's like, hey, can you come play for our team? I'm like, oh, I still got my pads. I guess I'll throw them on. I go out and play, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And like, it's so weird. So I go to every open skate in the area. Remember Victor Memorial had a great open skate. I couldn't do the day ones as much. That used to be a legendary one in the cities here for anyone that lives in Minneapolis. You could go there as a high school player. It was open skate at like 3 something on a weekday. There'd be Gopher players there, current Gopher players. I'm like, what's happening? That just doesn't happen. A North Minneapolis rink, which is not the nicest area. In Minneapolis, and you have the best players in the cities,
right?
Crazy. So I go to Sunday morning skate. I drive down to like Invergrove. I do everything to skate, just get back into it, because I didn't like being not good, right?
Yeah.
So then I finally like, do you remember the Goalie store bulletin board stuff?
Yes.
Yes. I post on there just randomly. I'm like, I feel like I got to get kind of in a regular skate. I'm sick of doing these open skates. I would still do them because I wanted to get the reps in or whatever. And Dave Hagenson, he was skating with some old NHL alumni guys. And he's like, hey, I have a good skate in Edina. Can you come fill in for me? I'm like, sure. Yeah, why not? I go there and I'm like, holy crap, a North Star's here, an NHL player. I never played with an NHL player.
Yeah.
And it was Tom Younghans, this older guy, but that guy still goes hard.
Yep.
He's a great character. I don't know if you've met him before.
I haven't met him, but I know I've heard the stories of him. Yes.
Yeah, he's great. So I'm in that skate, and like that climbs up, and I'm they're like, oh, they like you there. And it's the hockey docs. I'm skating with the hockey docs for a while, skating for them a while. And Dave would fill in with this other group at Parade. And then I end up going to skate over. He can't make it. I go skate over there, and it's Joe Dietzig's skate. And I'm like, who's the other goal? I'm like, amazing. Joe's like, his first shift was like between Lemieux and Yager or whatever, right? So I go there. Who's the other goalie? Tom Newman. Tom Newman is the goalie I wanted to be when I was a little kid. I mean, he was, he was the goalie, starting goalie's absolute stud. I get into with those skates, and through that, I've just like climbed out further from all that stuff. And so you've interviewed Jude Hall. I know him because he used to coach with SPA. Connor, I know him through Dietzig. And Adam Carlson, I also know him through Dietzig.
Yeah.
So I was going back through all those, and I remember Adam had just, it was kind of towards the end. I think he had just won junior gold, whatever. And this, I'm not taking any credit for this at all, but I remember him sitting there like saying like, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I'm like, man, the worst thing you can hear, it's like, it's good and bad, but where did you play? I can't say anywhere. So I'm like, if you got the means for it, man, he had S behind him as well. And Dietz kind of, vouch for him.
Yep.
Like,
I played with S.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I saw that. I'm like, if you can go somewhere, do it. Cause life, there's plenty of life ahead of you. It sucks to say, where'd you play and go Fridley High School? Like that's where it ended for me, really, from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny when you say that, because when I was coaching and the kids be like, well, where'd you play your high school hockey? And it's like in Chicago, and like, whatever. And then I think it was my second year coaching, and we were playing in the Fogarty Arena Christmas tournament, and Fenwick High School, who played in the Catholic League against us, came up, and they had just come off winning a state championship in Illinois. And they played, the only way to explain it is Catholic League hockey, where we beat the living daylights out of each other every
Sure.
Doesn't matter that we're all Catholic school kids.
Yeah.
We'll go to penance on Sunday.
Yeah.
But just, I call it clean, dirty hockey, because we knew where the line was, and we'd go up to the line, and these kids are just, every time you go into the corner, you're getting hit. Every time there's a chance for an open ice hit, you're getting hit. Like there's no throttle there. And, our kids were just getting like, Jesus. So they're talking to the ref, and the ref's like, technically they're playing clean hockey. It's just,
they're hitting hard.
Yeah.
Elk River did that through their youth. I remember playing against Elk River. I'm like, this is brutal.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough night, and it works.
And then Fenwick went, and I mean, they destroyed every team they played, and they wound up winning that championship. And after that term, I walked into the rink, head held a little higher, and the comments kind of went down when they're like, oh, you played in that Catholic League. It's like, yeah. It's like, now for all of you kids that make your way up to Evelyn, take a look in there, because I'm told, I haven't been up there yet, but the Chicago Catholic Hockey League's the oldest continuously played conference in the U.S. for high school hockey. It's been around since I think the 50s, and hasn't stopped for a year or anything like that. They've always been playing.
I wish I had known. I went up there a year or two ago on the way up to Cabotogama. We did like a little fishing vacation.
Oh, fun.
I had to. Do I go all the way up here? There's not much.
Yeah. My son went up to a Boy Scout winter camp out in Ely a couple years ago, right before COVID. And the only reason I considered going was so that I could take some time and head over to the Hall of Fame and check it out. But no, I was smart and stayed home, because I was recovering still from throwing my back out. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do winter camping with a bad back.
No, that would not be fun at all.
Yeah.
At all.
And they were sleeping outside in 20 below zero weather. I was like, it doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to what you're saying though, is like the where'd you play kind of thing. It takes on a new meaning when you're in beer league, because it's like, it really, I mean, I know guys that didn't make it far as far as the grand scheme of things, and they're just lights out now. Yeah. And guys that did make it pretty far, and they're like, I don't know, I kind of expected more,
Yeah. Guys that made it further than maybe they should have, or they just peaked at the right time, and they almost kind of lost that zest for playing, but they still play because they like the guys kind of deal.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're not as good, or for some of them, they're maybe twice the size they were when they played at a higher level. Yeah. I've seen that. But I mean, I got a guy on my team. He didn't play organized hockey at all until the beer leagues, and he is a true ankle bender. But you know what? He's one of the hardest playing guys we have on the team, and he enjoys it a lot more than most of the other guys because of that, because he didn't have that chance as a kid.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's one of my best defensemen, because he's got a great hockey sense of him. I'll take him on a 2-on-1 late in the game, holding on to a 2-1 lead to break up that breakaway than a couple of my other defensemen.
Just clog that pass, make sure that pass doesn't happen. Yeah.
And on top of that, he listens to me when I talk to him. If I'm saying tie up that guy's stick, he's going to tie up that guy's stick on the back door. Or on that odd man rush. If I'm saying take the pass, he's going to play the pass. And, where half the time, my guys probably just don't hear me. They're not listening for me. And so they do what they want,
I've been pretty blessed in my men's league stuff that I usually have good D in front of me, which helps so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, yeah, this last week, my game, I don't know what it was, but my guys let me see most of the shots, and it made the game almost not boring. No game's ever boring, but it was kind of routine. It was just like, boom, shot. There were
Simplifies everything.
Yeah, there was one. I had 3 guys in front of me, couldn't see, but I knew a shot was coming. So I just went down and I made the save. And the third guy turns around. He's like, "Hey, that was a hell of a save." And I looked at him. He said, "I had no idea where it was." I said, "I just knew it was coming." I tried
getting an area. Right?
The Steve McKee can play big. I was just trying to be big there. I was like, I just knew it was coming and I prepared for it. I said it could have gone by me and I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. So like summer times I'll skate that Perfect World training stuff Jordy Murray runs. It's like NHL skates, basically. They're training in the summer.
Yeah.
And when they start playing full ice, it is absolutely amazing how that plays out. It's unbelievable how like you can just go, this is how hockey's supposed to happen. You watch NHL because you're used to, most of us are used to watching NHL hockey. So you're supposed to play, everything pans out, but it's all the minutia is where you get ripped up, right? So
it's funny you'll say that because I fill in for Hockey Finder games every now and then. Those games, even though I play in the D division at the Super Rink, that's still better than most of the Hockey Finder leagues in our area. So when I fill in for Hockey Finder teams, I find I don't play as well. And that's because, to your point, things don't happen the way we expect them to happen. They get that pass, but they fumble it. And so instead of shooting right away, now they pass it back over. That person fumbles it. So you wind up getting caught out of position an awful lot because you're just naturally reacting. And then when I skate up to higher levels, I play really well because it's the things that I expect to happen are actually happening now.
Yeah. It's so I used to skate in a morning skate, and on Sundays I would skate in the morning and I'd skate at night. And my night skate at the time wasn't quite as up to par, was pretty far separated from the morning skate. A bunch of ex-St. Mary's guys, actually. Phil Heinel's the little goalie there now that I heard Jude mention him. I'm like,
he was right after me. Yeah, Phil was right after me.
He's so good. And I'm like, oh, who's this kind of short guy over there? And I watch him play. I'm like, okay, he's going to beat me nearly every game now because it's an organized skate and we do back and forth every 3 goals. So it's like, it's usually a goaltending battle. So I'm like, oh God, the last couple of years since COVID, I put on a bunch of weight. So it's trying to keep my breath, and Phil's a sick goalie. He's so good.
Yeah.
But how organized, like the flow of the game, like going from a good skate to a bad skate is so disorganized. It's so like disorienting, I should say.
Yeah. When I was home on breaks in college, I would go down to Johnny's Ice House because they had I think it was an 11:30 rat hockey every day. And it was great because you get these guys that worked in the loop because it was right there.
Yep.
They'd come over for lunch. So, we had lawyers, we had doctors. We had one guy, I just called him Morris because he was like Morris from Slapshot, just the dirtiest guy in the locker room, where it's like, you disgust me, Morris. But then we had Father Murray, the 72-year-old retired Navy chaplain that would come out and skate with us. And it's like, you had this mix of talent in it, but it was still the best skate in the city because of, right in the middle of the day. It was great. Well, when I was home over break between junior and senior year, because that was the one summer I went home. Every other year I just stayed at school and worked our hockey camp, which meant skating for 4 or 5 hours every night with my teammates. But this summer I went home to intern, and I'm doing these skates early in the summer, and we had a couple NHL guys start coming out with us. And Billy Zito, the Florida GM, he was skating with us because he was a player rep at the time. And Billy was a heck of a hockey player. He played over in Europe, I think I remember him saying. But he had some of his guys starting to come back, and you knew they were just holding back, and they were getting frustrated with some of the passing. And so Billy gets them the hour and a half before rat hockey, and it was about the second week they had their skate going. And one of the guys comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, we need a goalie tomorrow. You want to come out early? It's like, yeah, I got to come out early.
Yes to that, yeah.
The rest of the summer is funny because I'm getting off the ice like 2-3 weeks later, and one of the guys from the rat hockey's like, "Oh, too good for us now. You won't skate with us, will you?" It's like, no, I'm kind of tired after that 90 minutes with these guys. But
yeah, absolutely. And you can't pass up that opportunity.
You know, and I think what most people don't realize is, you know, the skating speed of those guys was comparable to what I was seeing at the Division III level, but it was the passing. It was the hands, and on top of that, the shots.
Yep.
The shots,
100%.
They weren't necessarily always faster, but they were a lot harder. You know, when they hit you, they hit you. We had one Russian guy. We just called him Sergey because we couldn't pronounce his name. He was playing for Tampa Bay. He whipped one by my head the one day. And you know the spin of a baseball, how you can hear that?
Yeah, you hear it hissing. Yeah.
It's the only time I heard the spin of a hockey puck go by my ear. And I just, like, I stood up and I looked at Sergey and I had to have cartoon eyes just coming out of my head. And like, he had terrible English and he just goes, sorry. Like, had no control over his shot, but it was like, Jesus, don't kill me, man.
Those skates are why you get the pro gear. Like, any of the, like, as soon as I started getting involved in those circles, I'm like, I have to buy. I'm like, I'm not buying your retail pro. Like Vaughn has a retail pro chest, but they also have a pro chest.
Yep.
Some of the shops have them now, where it's like extra in the bicep and the forearms. And I think honestly, the newer Vaughn stuff is a little tougher than it used to be in the retail pro. But yeah, like it was 2 summers ago. I have one that, like, up on my YouTube channel. I've got a bunch of old videos on there. But like Parisi and Goligoski taking full 1Ts, like 13 feet out, and I'm like, thank God I bought the good stuff. My shoulder, my collarbone had been shattered if I would have taken that shot in a crappy one.
Well, it's like I was talking to Bones, the e-bug down in Nashville, and he was talking about the day being out there with Shea Weber. You know, I think he broke a net or something.
He's a good goalie. He's a really good goalie. I watch his videos, and he's a solid player, and he plays really smart.
Yeah, he's a guy where I think if he grew up somewhere other than Nashville, probably could have went on to play at, you know, some decent levels.
It shocks me his YouTube channel isn't huge.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some great videos out there, but
they're good videos, and there's great production on all of them. Not to knock anyone else's, but like his production levels, his content are top notch. I love it.
Yeah, when we were thinking of moving to Nashville, him and I were texting back and forth. He was helping me answer questions about neighborhoods, school districts, and everything else. And one of these days, him and I are going to get out there together, and I'm going to teach him proper 2-pad stack recovery, because I was taught that.
the bottom leg tuck, and then
you know, it's like 2-pad stack recovery, proper poke check, you know. Because we were taught poke checking, you know, old school, out on your belly extension all the way. How to recover from that, you know, skate saves, because he's got that sweet set of vintage equipment, you know.
Yeah, he's a brave man that comes out in those. Even a pickup skate. There used to be that I was mentioning earlier, that Victory Memorial, the North Side pickup skate. There was a guy that would bike 10 miles every day, every Sunday morning. This guy was probably 58 to 65 years old, somewhere in there. He'd bike with his goalie gear, a little trailer. He'd bike it out there. He had the old Cooper separates. He had little Montreal styled pads that they almost looked like they're 10 inches wide. He'd go out there and play stand up with a stick that was as old as he was. And these were junior kids out there just clapping on him. It's insane. I'm like, he still had he had something similar to that. Remember the old Cooper that maybe like had a catch about that wide? I got one somewhere.
Yeah, the old Durasoft.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was soft here. Like, what are you doing? If you, like, the one thing about those old school chest protectors, you're like, okay, well, it's not as protective, but our gloves used to be so big back when I was in high school. Like, remember before they changed it? The gloves and the blockers were monstrous.
Yeah. Well,
like, okay.
That was, my old glove was probably the biggest Vaughn they ever made. And then I go to this one and I'm like, oh,
where's the rest of it?
Yeah. But, you know, surprisingly, when I got this, I brought it home. Like one of the first things I did was go out in the garage and get my old one and like put them side by side. And it's not as small as you would think. I think it just because they took the cheater away and kind of incorporated it in, it doesn't look as big as the other ones were. But yeah, it's like going from probably the biggest glove ever made to something else was.
I used to have the old Brian's Thief Midnight Edition. I used like that finally cracked right there. I like almost broke a finger. I'm like, okay, I think it's time to retire this. And then I was kind of right when I was getting back into hockey, obviously, because I was using my old stuff. And for a while, I just bought a bunch of that Simmons stuff for dirt cheap and kind of just bought that. And then I'm like, I kind of want, like I think they've made the same pad. I don't quote me on this, but I think the pad's not really changed a lot since even like 08 or 09.
Yeah.
And then I went into I got into Warrior stuff right when Pete Smith got over there. And I've been with Warrior. I buy Warrior pads every year.
Yeah. I looked at the Warrior stuff. I liked the pads. I liked the feel of the blocker, but I didn't like the glove.
Really?
Yeah. There was just something about the glove feel that I didn't like. And to me, take all the other equipment away. The glove has to feel good in a goalie's hand.
I hear you.
I don't know what it was because I really wanted to like Warrior because it's good stuff. I probably would have gone with it, but having been in Vaughn as long as I have, it didn't break my heart that I was still going with Vaughn again.
I mean, go with what you know, right? So
yeah.
The Warrior gloves have those removable palms, so you can kind of change it a little bit. Yeah, and it's weird. It was weird, like the 75 or whatever it is. Like I like that a lot, but for a little bit I was using a CCM glove. I hated how it felt, but I'm like, I'm making really sick saves with this glove on. I don't know what, like, kind of back and forth on it. I need to find something sort of in between it all, angle wise, and I think I'll be set. But
yeah. I mean, the biggest issue I have with my new glove is, for as long as I want to have this stuff, I went with the Pro Palm. Not the game ready. So it's taken longer to, the other one was so flappy that, it's like, boom. So getting it broken, it's getting there, but it's still a little stiff.
Have you heard of that Factory Mad guy? I know you can send gloves to him and he'll do something to them to make them more.
Yeah.
Loose. That Greasy Mitts League. So the nice thing about, I love talking gear. We could probably do like 6 episodes and we wouldn't run out of content here.
Yeah.
But that Greasy Mitts League's got 5 other goalies there. So, I get to talk gear all the time.
Yeah.
Guys there he does send his CCL or his Lefebvre gloves off to the Factory Man, and they come back and they're nice. They are quite nice. But it's at the same time, like my Warrior ones, I get them and I can snap them, I can clap them nice and loud when I get them. So but when you get a Pro Palm, that's kind of what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, that was something we talked about, Tori and I over at General Sports was, do I want it game ready, easy to do that right away? Or do I go with the Pro Palm so that it lasts as long as I want it to? It's like, well, I'm not playing to get my name on the Stanley Cup. I'm just playing to get a beer after the game. I'll sacrifice maybe a few of them popping out here early on.
Lundqvist used to just use his practice palm. That's he just do the kind of like that lacrosse catch, and it worked out great for him. He had an okay career, I think. So.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think it was last week on In Goal Magazine, the gear segment with Cam Matliff, they were talking about breaking in a glove. So I mean, I have my stick here, and then I got my garage clamps in the back. So today it's open. Tomorrow it's going to be clamped closed.
I saw that. That's it. Have you done the skate bake thing or no?
Yeah, I did it when we were in the store. We've got a really nice commercial range oven at our house where I can get it to lower temperatures.
Good.
Part of me wants to do it, but I'm like, no, I'll just stick with the skate ovens. But I haven't been back to the shop or anything. I could probably, because I'm up in Hugo, I could probably go. It's quite a trek to get over to General Sports. I could probably go down to Strauss, and if it wasn't too busy, they'd probably throw it in their skate oven for me.
For sure.
I think they have one over at Venice Sports Center. They have that little pro shop connected to it. I think they have an oven there, and if they do, I did a contract through 3M for a while, and like day 2, I'm talking to the guy that I was shadowing before they kind of set me loose to do my stuff. And, we're getting to know each other. And it's like, yeah, I play hockey. I'm a goalie. And then there's this email automation guy off in the corner. He does one of these. You're a goalie, are you? I was like, yeah. And he goes, 3M has their own league. And, would you be interested in playing? Because our goalie wants to retire. And it's like, yeah. So their goalie didn't retire that year. And then they called me the next year and they're like, hey, you want to play? It's like, yeah. And it's only for people who worked at or currently work at 3M. And it's like, okay, thought it was something, somebody started. No, the waiver came from 3M Legal. So like the company itself runs this league as like,
Sick.
this is pretty cool. Now, some of the teams have really good guys on it. Some of them, we got a bunch of older guys on our team, which is a goalie I like because it means I'm going to get a lot of shots.
Yeah,
I'd rather, I'd rather be busy back there. And we got 2 games into the season, and we got our first game done. That was fun. And then this COVID thing started rearing its head, and we were finding out N95 was the mask to wear. So, the team email was like, all right, who's bringing the masks from work for us? Jokingly. Little did we know. And like, we're in the locker room getting ready for the game. And, we're getting the email or the notifications from ESPN that the NBA shut down. We're like, let's enjoy this game, guys. And Fadness Sports Center has the bar connected to it, and the games were at like 5-6 o'clock at night. They were great times.
That's nice. Yeah, right after work.
But what's even better is it's still 2-for-1s at Saks after the game. So we would go over there and get our 2 beers for but we were still able to say, yeah, I only bought myself 1 beer tonight. And that, I forget who Chicago was playing. I think it may have been Anaheim. And that was the last NHL game played. And they already knew that was going to be the last one. So we're like, we're going to do a second round tonight. And that hasn't started back up. But long story short, it's supposed to be starting back up again this year. So if I'm playing there, I can run up early, throw the glove in the oven, and
perfect,
and head out on the ice. So it'd be perfect timing.
I feel like that's another element to job security for you too. Keep those contracts going, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was working contract work and I liked it. I can get into the benefits of contracting versus FTE, but I got tired of, every year to 2 years having to worry about the contract ending. Now I'm in a nice, comfortable work from home role doing the same stuff. It's like, I'll hold on to this one for a while, but I'm still going to keep those connections. At places like 3M, because when people start there, they only leave because they want to, or they do something really wrong. So they treat their people pretty well over there.
Awesome.
So believe it or not, I actually had notes. But this is what happens when goalies talk. So one of the first things I remember seeing on your social back when I first started following you is you got to skate with Ollie and Jacob when they were in town for the Let's Play Hockey Expo. How did that transpire?
Basically, so their manager knows Dietzig well.
Okay.
They're friends, or their manager's in town here. So that's why they end up in Minneapolis quite a bit.
Yeah, they're probably, if they're not in town already, they got to be on their way for the expo.
They gotta be. So Dietzig messages me like, hey, do you want to do like kind of a skit thing with them over at Parade? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course I will. I'm like, these guys are a riot.
Yeah.
So I go over there and we do. They never use it. This is the worst part of it, is they never use what we filmed. But one of the deals was like how to warm up the goalie. And I'm like, Dietzig, go just blast it at my face. Because I have a good helmet. I'm like, I'm not afraid. And I've taken shots in the dome from him. And of course, the time he shoots in this thing, it like was a cheek shot. I mean, my cages are all out in my garage right now. I no joke have like 8 cages that are just fold like because I only use cat eyes that are just pushed in. And it was a cheek shot. And I'm like, he's like, hey, instructions on how to warm up the goalie, and Dietzig full tilt slap right on the cheek. I'm like, oh, all right. So they did that, and then they were kind of doing like a how to get hit by an NHL player kind of thing. This was in the tiny 3v3 rink. So one, I think the sound was garbage because it was just so echoey. It's a Parade 3v3 rink. I love 3v3 hockey. I played it. I know a lot of the rinks are doing it now. Hat Trick, it used to be Hat Trick Arena. It's called something else over in St. Louis Park now. But it's just so fun for goalies. Check your ego at the door.
Yep.
And you just get nonstop action. But the
I'm-
rink there was just so tiny. The audio I don't think worked out. And the lights are those old filaments or whatever, I think.
Yeah.
It was the big yellow cast on it, I think. So.
Yeah, I like 3-on-3 because I'm not very good at playing the puck. But in those games, it's like that's where I try and come out and stop those rings more often, and try and gain a little confidence, because it is you're out there for fun. Here in the White Bear area, we have the old White Bear Hippodrome, which is it's almost 100 years old, that rink now.
Yeah.
But it's a small rink that they just really use for mite hockey, and then
perfect.
Older groups will rent it for 3-on-3, and some of my teammates, they rent it every few weeks, and I wouldn't say it's practice for us, but it gets us more ice time anyway. And it's fun to work on those skills. But if those fellas are in town this week, I got an idea for some good video that we could do with them. More focused on the goalies and how do we clear people out of the way. I'm thinking, Patrick Waugh and Dino Cicerelli was one. There's a couple of ways we could clear them out of the way.
The old tap, or one of my coaches always say get the stick behind their foot and then kick your stick.
Yeah.
And it hides it a lot, and you're like, okay, well,
you don't even have to kick it. You got to find that sweet spot. Yeah, and just the slightest push. I had one coach, he goes, you can always tell when the guy's coming from your glove side. He goes, all you have to do is push your hands out like this, and they're going to skate right over your stick and trip. But it just looks like you're in your position and they got too close to you. But he's like, it's like, man, that's a good one. And I've done that several times and not once gotten called for a penalty.
That's awesome. I kind of don't mess around with that anymore. There's so many times where I'm like shoving and pushing, and it's like you get so distracted with trying to create space that they're taking shots and you're not stable.
Yeah.
So even in I watched some of my high school goalies. There's a couple times where they started shoving and pushing, and they get bit on it. And I think there's a balance. There's obviously, because you can't let them take the crease. Right. You have to have your space, but
you know what I've gotten much better at is, instead of trying to fight them, I get the ref's attention. I'm like, hey, they're getting in my crease. They're impeding my play. And more often than not, within the next couple minutes, there's a whistle for being in the crease. And that clears it out pretty quick.
Social engineering.
Yeah, exactly. And, and then it's that opportunity to have a good conversation with the ref, and they, now they're looking out for you. Yeah. They're watching the crease a little bit quicker, which leads to quicker whistles too.
Yep.
They're lately in beer league, because there's always time to push a guy out. I might put my glove on their backside to let them know, like, hey, I'm right here, don't back up. Mm-hmm. But there was one guy just camped out there. His teammates weren't seeing him. I was like, hey, I see you. And I jokingly said, I should have pulled a Cicerelli on you. And he knew exactly what I was talking about. So a couple minutes later, he's standing right in front of the net. And so I just very lightly bring the stick up between his legs and hit him on the inside of his leg. And he turns around and just starts laughing. It's like that's at our level of play. That's all that's needed.
Yeah. Just let them know you're there.
Yeah. So some folks maybe found you recently because of a quite a long music video that was put out on YouTube with your brother and his band, the Wongtones. How did he approach you with that one? Clearly he's the only one in the band that skates. How did he convince them to do a concert on the ice?
I'll say that Kenny Holman was a pretty good. I think he knew how to skate. He had an okay shot too. So, but yeah, he was actually kind of thinking about doing that a while back, last year, I think, and things just didn't line up.
Yeah.
So he had some like ideas around it, and I'm like, if you ever need me, like, not that it's like my brother's a big musician, and it's like I'm a goalie, like, or IT. So
yeah,
like, I can fix your computer, but you're all Mac anyway, so I can't do that. But I'm like, if there's anything, if you ever need me for a video or whatever, just I'll say yes. So it worked out really well. He was supposed to go play down in Northfield. They're supposed to have it all in Northfield.
Okay. So
something happened where the rink had to like not let him have the ice time. And I'm like, well, people are flying in, and there's happened to be an opening over at Charles Schultz Arena in St. Paul, and 6 hours of open ice time on a weekend during the hockey season. Are you kidding me? Good rink. It was the big rink. So yeah, he called me. He's like, we're gonna do some skilly skits, and you can kind of we'll just have fun with it. I'm like, all right, cool. So it was so weird to see, like Sonny T's out playing bass on the Zamboni, and ours actually drumming with skates on and stuff. So like,
that was funny, playing the drums while being the goal. Like, he's not even trying to stop anything, and they still couldn't score. That tells you how good of hockey players some of these musicians were. But it was amusing, that's for sure.
And I was aiming for the cymbal on my shot. So,
yeah, you're much better shooting the puck than I'll ever be. That's for sure.
Turco grip, man, that changed my life.
Since I've gotten much better playing the puck since I started the Turco grip, but I'm still not very good. Although,
practicing like during warm-ups, like I'll back when I was trying, I'm like, I have to learn how to play the puck. I could never even lift the puck when like the Brodeur, like the wildest hand under the stick. Turco grip, I couldn't believe it. I could go, I'm going bar down, bar down, bar down. I was never a puck player, and now I'm like, I'll try and sauce passes out to the far blue if I see line changes happening now. So it's a blast when you get, because I don't do it if it's a sketchy situation now. I'm still not that confident. I'm not like I'm already Turco or whatever. But like if I see a line change and there's an opportunistic situation, I'm like, I'm sending it. Like if we're up a goal and like there's no threats around me, why not try and get an apple?
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to become more confident. Like, I'm not terrible. I'm better than I give myself credit for. But, part of me is like, do I need to come out and stop that ring and play, move the puck up ice? In beer league, probably not. If there was something on the line, if we were playing in the playoffs, I'm going to do that. But, in a normal beer league, nah.
Ringing's another story. If the puck comes to me, I'll play it behind the net. I'm like, I'm not skating. I'm already tired.
Exactly. It's like, these guys keep me busy as it is. I average close to 40 shots a game.
Busy game. I don't know how you edit your stuff down to 2 minutes. I gotta learn how to do that if I ever post again.
It's gonna sound funny, but I use iMovie because it's so easy just to
chop.
Yeah, because when you chop it, it automatically pulls it over. But if you're using, the Adobe products, you got to pull it over. So, like, I'll do my intro and outro in After Effects and then pull that in. But iMovie is just so user friendly, and it just boom.
Yeah. I used to use Windows Movie Maker. Do the same thing. You're like, why? All we're doing is chopping things up. You don't need fancy in betweens and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get to the 10 not so rapid fire questions, recently you posted a fun little photo where you happen to be the e-bug for the night for the Wild. Now, I didn't realize until KVG was talking to him, but Connor is right now the only e-bug for the Wild. So he clearly couldn't make that game. Did he just reach out to you? How did that all transpire?
Yeah, so earlier in the season, he kind of gave me a heads up. It'd be me and someone else that like, hey, if I need you, I'm gonna ask one of you guys. And I thought he kind of was talking about an orientation situation. I'm like, well, as I have learned, when you get in situations you kind of don't feel like you belong in, just don't ask questions. Like, thank you. It'll happen when it happens. I'm locked and loaded kind of situation. So he kind of gave me a heads up, like we might do an orientation, and that wasn't happening. I'm like, that's okay, because I'm sure there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like there's pro sports seems so busy, you're not going to entertain these like side situations. So and I obviously Connor's good for it. So it's kind of like, I'm like, holy crap, it might happen. And then I'm like, I haven't heard from a while. Maybe he makes most of them, right?
Yeah.
So and why wouldn't you? I would make sure I never missed any of them.
Yeah, you get to go to a Wild game for nothing. Why wouldn't you? And
exactly,
you're up in the press box, so you don't have to pay for your food either.
Yep. So the situation happens. A really good reason he couldn't make it. And I get the call. I'm like, oh my God, this is heck yeah. The funny thing is, it's in the press box. So the Wild press box, you have to have a suit. You're wearing a suit, and you heard me earlier. I put on weight, and I go look at my suit, and I'm like, I don't have a suit for this. I'm too heavy now. I ended up spending like way too much on one suit for one night. Hopefully I can use it for my wedding too. We'll see. But
Yeah.
go buy a suit. I'm like, I just broke my stick because I was pissed the other skate. Shattered my brand new Hyperlight stick on the post, like a sideways kind of thing. I didn't think I was gonna do it. I wasn't. So I have to go buy a new stick. I gotta buy a new suit. I'm like, I'm in, like 500 plus bucks for this.
Would have been cheaper to go to the game on your own.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, whatever it costs, we're making it happen because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Hopefully not once in a lifetime, Connor, but if you're watching.
Well, Connor, if you are listening, you like, I've got a suit that fits. In fact, I've got the perfect tie. So I had to wear a shirt and tie every day in high school because I went to an all boys Catholic high school. And the only restrictions were it couldn't be vulgar, it couldn't show nudity or drugs or alcohol. So I found this tie. The background happened to be maroon, our main school color, and it was a bunch of hockey players fighting. Awesome. I wore that tie every day for 4 years.
That's awesome.
I still have that one I can wear. My teachers loved it. They thought it was great. Great. So yeah, it's I saw that and I was happy for you. I would say
it's such an amazing experience. I messaged Bones because I don't like, I kind of like his stuff, and we kind of lightly message back and forth. I don't know him super well, but I'm like, hey man, I'm like, you were so lucky to be able to do this. And I'm thanking Connor trying to not be annoying how much I'm thanking Connor with my posts and stuff. And like, it was the Wild, the organization makes you feel so special. It was such a cool experience. Obviously I was a big fan, and I just couldn't believe how important they make you feel throughout that whole process. It's amazing. I mean, you're parking right under the rink. People know your name walking in, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm not used to this kind of like notoriety.
Yeah. Am I in an alternate reality right now?
Yeah. It was crazy. And like, they're so nice. They're like, anything you want, go anywhere you want. You get to go on that elevator and say which floor you want to go on. I did a lap, and I just missed Chris and Bill Guerin because I took a lap between the second and third period, and he came up to say hi. I'm like, oh, of course, that's right. I'm not there. But.
Yeah. My wife, she was the director of events at the Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal for a while, and they held, in conjunction with the Wild, a pretty cool like cocktail hour deal at the X. And it was on a night the Wild weren't playing. They were supposed to be on the ice actually for a practice, but different things happened and they weren't. So they were doing tours of the arena. And I didn't go on one because I was just, standing by my wife in case she needed help with anything. And their director of marketing or something came by, and he's like, all right, I'll take the last one. And he's like, I have more access than the other people that were doing it. So he actually took us out on the ice. The only place they didn't take us was the locker room. That was the only place we didn't go, but he's like, yeah, go out on the ice. They can't be mad at me. I'm one of the bosses here. But we were up in the press box and everything else. It's you go to that rink as a fan and it's cool, but once you start getting behind the scenes and seeing, some of that stuff, it's a really cool place.
I've skated there a handful of times. I got to go out there once when a bunch of the coaches were out there with a bunch of group skate, like that they had, like Andrew Burnett and whatnot were out there, and that was amazing. It's insane how hot it is. It's like standing in a gym, and I'm a sweaty guy already, and I'm like, my legs were twigs, like gingerbread man, straight after that skate, just cramped up. I'm like, I have to sit here. I literally sat in the stall there for probably 15 minutes before I could bend my legs after that skate, because it went an hour and a half. I think I have that. I think I have the skate up on my YouTube. But yeah, it was a wild experience.
Yeah, when I was in high school, we got to play at the time it was still called the Rosemont Horizon. It's the Allstate Arena where the Wolves play, and that was the very first thing I noticed was how hot it was under those lights.
It's like, it doesn't feel like you're in a rink. You're like, I'm in a gym.
Yeah, you're like, how is this ice hard? It's ridiculous. And then I played at Mariucci right before COVID hit, and even that rink,
Same thing.
it was
Yep.
pretty hot. I was expecting it because of having played at Allstate Arena, but some of the guys I was skating with, they're like, "Jesus Christ, I'm getting tired quick. It's got to be the heat in here." It's like it's the lights, guys. I would say Mariucci wasn't as bad, and I wonder if they're maybe using some more LEDs or something compared to the old. Old light bulbs of the 90s.
Yeah. Well, the tall ceilings too, because like it kind of just lets the cold. I mean, obviously the cold should stick low, but like it does like it lets all that air kind of get around. So it's just it's wild. It's so you respect it even more. Not that you don't already, but you're like, man, these guys like it's so warm. It's a gym. It's like standing in a gym.
It is. Now, if I ever get my David Ayers moment, I know teams typically don't have beer in the locker rooms these days because of good reasons, but
yeah,
I'm gonna need a beer after the game. That's can't get away from that one. I'm gonna need a beer, fellas.
Yeah, for sure.
I've grown accustomed to that in the beer leagues. So we've been talking a while, so let's get to the 10 rapid fire questions.
Sure.
The fun part is I've been pointing out they're the same questions I've asked every single guest that I've had on. So, Connor's answered the same ones. Jude. One day I'll get Connor's dad on here and he'll answer them too.
Great guy.
But even other guys like Eddie Belfour has answered the same one. So what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing or coaching days?
There's a crazy coaching moment from my coaching days. I can't tell. I'll tell you off or something. But I would say so. My coach growing up through a lot of it. I grew up with the Palmers, Jeff, Candace, and Jason. Their dad coached, and he would fire. I go, I want you to shoot as hard as you can. And I was a kid, and he would, and I just loved it. I think that's like, I don't know that you can always get someone to do that now. Yeah. But he would do it, and I loved that he would do it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There was a time, so I, like in high school. Right now, I can be kind of an ornery goalie sometimes, but in high school, I'm just like, whatever. My coach is like, we're just getting pounded by Delano or something, and he's like, the first period, I think I saw like 25 shots or something insane. And he's like, I want you to go in there, slam your helmet on the ground, and kick the garbage can over and make a fuss. And I'm like. I walk in there, it's like kind of just like drop my. I just was not. I was supposed to be the captain, and it's like not a great situation. I'm like, dude, I wasn't gonna go nuts, and it's like I had a nice Warwick painted by Todd Miska.
Yeah, I'm not throwing that thing on the ground.
I'm not gonna wreck this thing. I love it. So
I was the opposite. I was ornery in my playing days when I was the backup, like. Yeah. I played the role of the backup quite well, kind of being fun and jovial. But these days I'm like, did anybody get hurt? No. Yeah. Okay. We good. One of my, you talk about a coach just opening up on you. My senior year of high school, we had this coach. He only lasted a year. Nobody really liked him. Thing is, he had some really good ideas, but he couldn't control a locker room, couldn't control a team. Yep. And he was a prick. He was a Canadian chiropractor. I'll leave it at that. But I had a few games where a few got by my glove that I typically would have had. So, something just wasn't working, and there was nobody on the ice before us, and I was already ready. He goes, come on, let's go out on the ice. Just us two. I was like, okay. We get out there, and he's got the bucket of pucks, between the hash marks on the top of the circle. And he goes, put your helmet on the net. And I go, what? And he goes, put your helmet on the net. I go, okay, what do we got to do? He goes, I'm going to shoot at your gloves. And I go, I don't have a helmet on. And he goes,
yeah,
I bet you catch every single puck. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
And so he, the first few were kind of light floaters to just but then he starts ripping snapshots. And I'm just boom, boom, boom. And my teammates are now like just lining the boards like, do you see what's going on up? And that was like one of the few times where I'm like, he knew what he was doing there.
Yeah.
And it worked, but it was kind of funny because my
wouldn't fly today probably.
Yeah. And my teammate, well, no, because USA Hockey would require that both of us have a helmet on, including him. The backwards ball cap wouldn't fly today. But my teammates come on the ice, are like, God, what were you thinking? I was like, I better catch the next puck is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then
That's amazing.
one of my teammates goes, what would you have done if you played, in the time when goalies didn't wear masks? And I looked at him dead in the eye. I go, I would have been a forward, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I may be a goalie,
Psycho.
but I'm not dumb.
Yeah. Crazy.
So what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
I love the Belfour mask. I had the poster of it. I think I really like a mask you can understand its design from a far distance. And that's nothing to say because like the Dave Art stuff is super skilled.
Yeah,
It's very intricate.
He's
but
reining it back a little bit, I've noticed.
I know I actually noticed that too. Was it Shesterkins but yeah, I really like I got another old mask back here. This guy here.
Yeah.
For those of you listening,
sweet.
it's the Beaupre Meloche kind of tribute mask I had done. I really like Beaupre's. I really like Eddie Belfour's masks. I think they're just really good examples of what like clean and simple design can look.
Now, when you talk Belfour's, it was about 4 different variations. He had that original. He had the next one that had that, what I would call misplaced talent on the chin.
Yeah.
Then he had his first one with Miska, the realistic looking eagle. It was the mask he had when he was in Chicago and then went to San Jose. So he had a red one. Then he went black because Hawks were supposed to debut their black sweaters.
Sure.
And the night they debuted him was the night he was traded. So he never got to wear the black sweater. I remember that vividly. And then he had the final version that was the one Miska, I think, made famous. So of those 4, which was your favorite?
To me, like the red one. I liked the red clean one.
That original.
Like I that's the one I had the poster of, and it was just I would look at that thing. I'm like, when I was played for Fridley Tigers.
Yeah.
I basically had a tiger and then the claws going down the side. I'm like,
okay,
that's kind of my Belfour tribute kind of.
Yeah. I wanted that Belfour mask, but then when I was in high school, St. Lawrence High School, their goalie Raul Cepeda, he was a good goalie. He had that painting. I was like, well, now I can't have it because I
can't be like teamed up like that.
Yeah. But
I remember when I was getting my helmet done by Miska, he had Belfour's back plate. I think he had just gone to Dallas or something, and he had the back plate. I'm like, oh my god, this is like I'm holding Eddie Belfour's back plate on. I'm like, I felt like such a little starstruck nerd.
I got to actually talk to Todd for a In Goal article I wrote, 10 plus years ago when In Goal was just starting out. And that was pretty cool to go talk to him. And then now his kid's playing. And I loved that he had the Belfour mask last year. Now he's got the Fernandez mask this year.
Yeah.
Just kind of going through some of his dad's classic ones. And it's like, it works because his dad's the one that created them. So what is your favorite rink that you've played at?
To be honest, growing up in Fridley, we had Columbia 1, and I really liked that rink. When I was coaching, I basically anytime we went to an old rink that had like the wood or like cathedral type stuff, I'm like, remember these rinks because I mean, when you're my age, like whole like 30 years old, whatever I was, like 34, these rinks might not be around. Columbia's got plowed over. It was a beautiful rink. It had the big, like the big center scoreboard above the ice, and you don't see that as much anymore. So I'd say Columbia 1. I like New Hope. I like Blake's got a cool rink.
That's a cool
old wood rinks. I just think are such a cool vibe.
Yeah,
it makes it feel really special.
When I was coaching, I liked when we'd go up to Cloquet because it's got that old wood kind of curved top, and I mean that was all just locally sourced, and they have that tiny rink next door that was all volunteer built, and all the materials were donated by the community. That rink's, you didn't want to play there because it had no insulation. If it was 20 below outside, it was 20 below inside.
Yeah.
But even their main rink, that was a fun place to coach hockey in.
Richfield's got a good rink too. I like the circling of that one.
Yeah.
Where it kind of like especially I can't imagine what it'd be like packed. It'd just be amazing with everything kind of on top of you. I like that design of a rink. So
Yeah, I liked that. That was one thing when we played in Grand Rapids. I just loved they had kind of that horseshoe of going around. It was just kind of fun to have, everybody in front of you, behind you, just hurling the most obscene things they could at a high school level.
Atmosphere, man. It's so
Yeah.
good. So like even if it's against you, I just loved atmosphere.
Yeah, I think some fans don't realize like the meaner they are when you're in a opposing barn, that's almost like them cheering.
Motivates.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like being at a home barn and them cheering for you.
Like I'm gonna show you how wrong you are, kind of
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
And the more creative they got, the more I loved it. It's like, all right, I like you guys.
Yeah.
We got a kinship here. What's your favorite stick that you've used?
I like the modern Bauer sticks quite a bit. What I broke 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I liked quite. I was the Hyperlight one. I like how they feel, and it works out well because I'm full right, so I don't really get to pick
Mhm.
a bunch of like curves and whatnot. It's the P31 curve you get, and it's always in. If you want to pay $300, it's the what's it called, the 26. I got or no, yeah, it was a 20. What's the NHL limit now? 26. I got it on sideline swap, so I wasn't paying $300 for a stick. But
Yep.
I like the composites. I do like them now. I used to be apprehensive on them. They used to buzz your hand. Doesn't happen anymore. They're quite nice now. They feel like a new stick till they don't. And when
Hmm.
they don't, they're broken. They're fully broken.
Yep.
So,
I was about ready to go with a composite when I
mhm.
bought my last stick, but I found on Pro Stock they had a nice foam core Vaughn that
Mm.
same colors as my pads is like
Oh, dude, you gotta go with
same
that.
color as my pads. My pads are Vaughn. It feels like the right thing to do, and I love it. It's a 27-inch paddle.
Sure.
Um, it's a P31. It's got the rounded toe. It's first time I've had the rounded toe, and I'm kind of digging it.
I'm so on them.
Yeah, it's first time I've had one, so I don't hate it. I'll put
Yeah,
it that way.
perfect.
And a lot of times a lot of things I've read is guys either like it or don't like it when they're stopping the ring. Well, I'm not doing that as much, but they really like it when they're playing the puck. It's like,
Mm.
well, I'm trying to do that more, so yeah, we'll give it a try. Um,
Yeah, so I remember, I think was it your last, when you were talking to Jonas Hiller, you were mentioning that you were kind of iffy on the composites.
yeah,
You like the weight. So one thing I would say is the Bowers that are a step down from the top,
yeah,
not only do they have a little bit more weight to them, I feel like they last longer. So like
hmm
what do I have?
almost like the senior version, not the pro version.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
They weigh a little bit more, but they're very tough. I used a 3S Pro, which was not like, it was the one down from Ultrasonic, I think. I used that for a year, and I was skating with like,
hmm
I was skating with NHL guys in the summer. They're taking slap shots. It lasted totally fine that entire year. I couldn't believe it.
I liked when I had Connor on. He was uh, talking about, he was it Connor? Yeah, it was Connor. He's talking about how he was at one of the skates and his stick broke,
Mm.
and I think it was one of Harding's sticks or something they still had laying around, and it was a foam core. So he used that. He's like, my arm was so tired from that. And it's like, come on now, they're not that heavy, like,
It's like,
but
yeah, it's grams, it's not pounds, right? So,
but I get it. I mean, that's one of the things. Like I used a composite once when I was coaching. Our goalie didn't show up, and so
mhm.
I quick threw his stuff on. He had an early composite, and I noticed my stick was always off the ice because it was just so
Just picking
light.
it up. Yeah.
So it is noticeable, and I like the little bit of weight because it kind of
Mhm.
helps me know the stick is on the ice where it's supposed to be.
Tell you what, get the one that's a step down from the top notch. It's going to weigh a little bit more, but I think they last longer,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yep.
And you save $100.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's that too.
$300 for a goalie stick. Are you kidding me? It's just brutal.
I
How are you supposed
remember
to play?
I remember as a kid they were $50.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
it's like, geez. And then I went to college and I was pampered. They were 3 for 20, and it was like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And now they're even a foam core is like 100 for a good deal. It's just
Crazy.
terrible.
Crazy.
Inflation, what are you going to do? So what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh, we had a really good, my first year squirts. we just had enough people to have a team, and that whole year was just amazing. I think we lost 2 games, all the winning tournaments, and just like they used to hog pile all the time. And I remember feeling was getting at the hog pile after winning some of those tournaments. So those was great. And I had this one game in youth. We were playing in a tournament in St. Cloud, and was going like quadruple overtime. And because it was going into quadruple overtime, some of the St. Cloud Huskies fans were starting to filter in, and they're like, we can't keep going. We're going to do a shootout now.
Yeah.
So we do a shootout, and it's going back and forth, and I'm losing track. I'm just like, I'm just kind of aloof. I'm like, I just have to make the save, and they come down on me. I'm not going to pay attention to the doing when they were back and forth. I'm not seeing if we're scoring, and all of a sudden I make a save, and I'm like, okay, cool. I skate in the corner, and all of a sudden, like, the crowd is going bonkers. We got like a quarter capacity in St. Cloud is more than any youth kids ever used to, at least in Minnesota, in the US. And I'm like looking at them like, why are they so loud? And my team we just go up against the boards, and I'm like, oh my God, we just won. It's so fun. Just like have like an audience, because they're just college kids, probably drunk as can be, and just having a blast. I loved it.
That's awesome. So what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
I've had a weird chirp. There's a tournament. What was it called? Something Futures. It's a cancer benefit tournament in St. Paul. I'm standing in my net, obviously, hanging out, and this guy goes, "Hey goalie, nice gear." And I'm like, what? And I'm hearing this from the crowd. There's only one guy there. Yeah. And I look over, I'm like, are you, thanks, I guess? Because I wear I have all gold stuff. If you don't know, I have kind of Fleury-esque gold and black, usually a lot of gold, way more gold than black. And he goes like, you effing loser, nice gear. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm playing cancer benefit tournament. Why are you chirping me? Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, he just keeps going at me. I'm like, I was so confused by it. Turns out he's another goalie in the tournament. We play him later, and like he has a meltdown because some of our guys were shooting high. Because I mean, to be honest, modern goaltending, shooting high is kind of where you
score.
That's where you score. If you're gonna play butterfly, you're gonna get shot above your shoulders or like above your arms. Like, it's just kind of how it is, especially if you're a big goalie. That's why, unless I know a guy's hunting my head, I don't get too mad if someone dings my dome, because I know they're usually not trying it. I've known there's maybe 2 instances in the past 10 years I know a guy was aiming for my head. That's because my team had been shelling them. They weren't letting off. Yeah. So like, I don't know. It was such a weird chirp. I'm like, dude, this is a charity. Yeah. Like, lighten up, buddy.
Yeah. Lighten up, Francis.
So weird. So yeah, I guess that would be my favorite one, just because it's just bizarre.
Yeah. Those are usually the best ones when they're so obscure and whatnot. It's like, what?
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Like, it's one thing if you know the person, you're just ragging on them. Like, one of my regrets is when my now oldest niece, she's like 23 years old and going to law school. She's like 3 years old and coming to visit me at college. And we'd go to like the women's games. And we'd sit behind the visiting team's goalie, and teacher like, yeah, you need to be like, Civ. And, hey, goalie, you suck. Well, then my mom and dad bring her to my game the next morning.
Oh no.
And I'm playing, and she's sitting behind me, this 3-year-old going, Civ to me. My coach is just laughing. He's like, you brought it on yourself, dude.
Dude, so on that, I just remembered something. So I was driving, I had a crappy little Golf that I would drive around, and my goalie sticks in the back. And I was putzing around on the highway, and I accidentally cut someone off. I'm not a bad driver. I accidentally cut someone off. And the guys pulling up next to me, they're mad because I cut them off. But instead of yelling at me or flicking me off, they did the Civ sign to me. I'm like, this is amazing. That is the best Minnesota situation I've ever had, hockey related, as far as like off ice interactions go. That was just, I'm like, you got me. Like, I deserve that.
That is awesome. So next question, what's the worst post-game beer?
Spice. I had a spice beer. Jalapeno beers, nothing spice related. So Greasy Mitts, you get a beer. So the way that league works is it's awesome. There's a really good, like, kind of brotherhood in the locker room after, because it's all a bunch of teams going in the same locker room. they'll have top plays of the night. And then there's like a punishment beer for being the worst goalie of the night. Most goals. I shouldn't say worst goalie because I got it a lot this season. Plenty of them deservingly, but so I had a hot glove save. So you kind of give a speech and like, here's a hot glove, here's a spice beer. I'm like, what the, like I played well. I'm not supposed to get the worst possible beer. Jalapeno and like tomato and like, I don't know. It was just brutal. I'm like, I am exhausted. We just played 3v3 for an hour.
Yeah.
Now I'm sucking down a jalapeno beer. Like, what is this? This is ridiculous. So I would say any of those spice beers, I'll take a sour over a spice beer. Anything. I'll take a stout. I'll take the heaviest Russian Imperial stout you got over a spice beer after hockey.
See, now one good spice beer that you probably like, Clown Shoes makes a chocolate. I think it's a stout, but they have jalapeno in there. And it doesn't sound like it should go together, but it is really good. I've had that one a couple times, and like most beers, better on tap than it is in the bottle, but it's a really good beer. It's
not after hockey though, right?
No, actually, I think after hockey. I mean, I'm a fan of a nice light beer first, and then you go on to something. Yeah. But I think it's still smooth enough if it's cold and in a glass, not out of. I'm a big fan of out of a glass instead of the bottle. It would actually be pretty decent, in my opinion.
I'll have to give it a shot. Sounds good. I'd like it.
Yeah. I'm kind of a craft beer snob as it is. So
there you go.
It's I got the Untapped app, and I don't know how many hundreds of different beers I've tried. So
I live in northeast Minneapolis, so I got like stumbling distance to all the breweries in town pretty much.
Yeah, my sister-in-law is a personal trainer, and one of the gyms she trains at is Los Campeones in Northeast there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I took and there's also upstairs, there's a friend of hers that has a hair salon. So I took my kids to get their haircuts, and it was funny. So my mom called and she talked to my son. She's like, "Where are you guys at?" And my son's like, "Yeah, we're at the gym. We're getting our haircuts." And I heard a like pause on the other end, and my mom's like, "Say that again. Where are you?" And so then I had to explain to my mom, was like, "Yes, we're at the gym hanging out with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law while my daughter is getting her haircut upstairs in the salon, but it's right down the street from Dangerous Man." So of course I had to go down there and get a
Dangerous
growler.
Man, Indeed, Able. You got MN Ice Cream right there. Animale's barbecue is so good.
Yeah. Well, I'm a sucker for the peanut butter stout, so I had to go get some.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we are. But yeah, I had to get the peanut butter stout because I'm a sucker for that one. And is that such a good beer?
Oh,
it's like a milk. Yeah. It's like drinking a peanut butter milkshake. For anybody wondering where they're like, it's like a peanut butter cup milkshake, but it's a beer. It's just
a good flavorful one. Yeah.
Yeah. I went there with a couple friends a couple years back and tried explaining it, and they're like, I don't know, because they didn't want a peanut butter beer. They're like, no way. It's like, try mine, and they're like, oh my God, this is delicious.
You don't slam it. You just kind of chill and have a conversation and enjoy this sweet treat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because the first time I actually went to the gym, me and my daughter, because my sister-in-law does like a morning high intensity CrossFit type class. Mm-hmm. And so we went to it, and we were done at 11. It's like, okay, yeah, the brewery didn't open till noon. It's like, well, I'm not sticking around for an hour just to get a growler. I guess I'll go home now. So I made sure the next time we went, the brewery was open.
There you go.
So when you tape, we're almost done here. When you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
I actually go toe to heel. And I know I think that's against the
it's
norm.
Not against. Is there a reason for it?
I don't like doing the scissor thing on the end. Like I like just starting it there, and it's easier just to rip it off on the other end. My sticks can get pretty gnarly. I don't really care. I don't notice much. Like I'll still play the puck with I'll go like stuff's all wadded up on there, and I'm still playing it just fine.
So do you go past the heel, or do you just do the? Okay.
I kind of I'll do overlap almost a little bit. That's where it gets kind of sketchy. I'm like, why do I do it like this? Like it's one of those things like I don't care, but I don't know. I could go either way, I guess. If someone could convince me like why to do it one way versus the other, I would do it.
Connor did have an explanation of, he likes to play the puck, and he feels going toe to heel, the puck comes off the tape better.
I kind of thought, like it was like it goes with it. That was kind of my mindset.
Yeah, and I've heard the argument both ways. Me, because of when we started, when sticks were wood and you wanted to preserve that heel, I started at the above the heel and worked my way down. Well, it was very easy to mess up that heel section. So I rather mess up at the beginning of the tape job than at the end, but who knows? One day when I make my transition to a composite, I probably won't do the heel because it doesn't need to be taped like that anymore. Who knows? We'll see. So what's your favorite number to wear and why?
I just ended up taking 35 just because I'm like, well, it's a goalie number. I kind of got it. I never liked 1 very much.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right on the back.
It just, it's what I wore in high school, I think. Or did I think it. So when I came in, I wanted to be 35 because they didn't have 39 for Hasek, obviously. Then but the senior goalie had it, and I'm like, oh, I have to be 1. I think I can't remember if I took 35 or I just don't. It never mattered much to me. One thing I had fun with growing up though is when I could pick when they got fresh jerseys every year.
Yeah,
13 because it's unlucky.
Yeah,
I'm like, I want to be unlucky for them, so I'll be 13. Which is such a weird. I wish I would have just stuck with that and just like held my ground on it because like it seems like goalies are grabbing whatever number nowadays. So
yeah. When my dad played sports, he never played hockey, but that was his number. He's like, no, it's not unlucky to me. It's my lucky number. Like, all right, there you go.
Get to claim it.
Yeah. But no, I like 35. I wore that in high school. It feels right on the back. That's the only way I can say it. It feels right.
It's even, right? I guess 1 would be even as well, but I just didn't like how
I don't like it. To me, it's just too blank. And now I'm 39 and like 35, it feels right.
Yeah. There you go.
So last question. What advice do you have for young goalies?
Depending on how young, I guess like when I was coaching, I'm like, I would coach younger kids for a little bit. The puck's a projector. Like that's kind of what I say. Like you kind of talk about those strings. Yeah. But if you just think the puck is a light source and you have to block that light source from the net, like that's all you have to do. It's just like, it helps visualize what needs to be done and from the source of where it's coming from.
It's funny you say that because Steve McKeegan's Future Pro Goalie School, his YouTube channel, he does just that. He takes a projector and puts it out there so that you can see where the goalie's shadow is on the net from the source of a puck.
I watch a fair amount of his videos. I haven't seen that one, but it's simply that's what it is. So,
you'll have to go back in some of his because when I had him on, I went back and watched some of the older videos and I saw that one and remind me the old put the string on the post and pull it out. Like, but but he had the projector so you could turn around and see how much net am I really taking up at these different depths. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like you can just do those little puppets in front of it or whatever. Like if your glove's in front of it, it's not getting up and around. Like a tip becomes a new shot essentially. But like the first shot, as long as you're covering your percentages, it's easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that screenshot I was talking about this week where I played my box. I knew what my box was compared to where the shooter was shooting from. I just went down and I covered it. I knew I didn't have to go high because those guys in front of me had the high side.
So I watched one of your other videos. You had you were in split. It was like a pass to pass.
Yes.
And you brought your glove. You had your glove out perfectly. Like it's like, well, I mean, glove back 1 foot is a monster difference versus glove forward 1 foot in a slot play. Like the importance of that can't be. It's so weird to look at as like for a kid to conceptualize, right? Because you're like, well, it still looks like that much net's open, but it's not. You've just dominated the entire net by pushing your hand like 6 inches forward.
It's funny you say that because I remember listening to something Dominic Hasek was talking about his style of play and how he's like, people think I don't know what I'm doing out there, paddle down and getting so low and those scrums in front of the net. He goes, but they're so close. They can only get the puck so high. I'm covering everything down low instead of everything up high that they're not going to. And that's kind of the same idea. Like if they're coming out, don't hold this glove back here as you're going across, get it out there so that you're covering more net.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like it's weird to even look how Fleury holds his hands. They're so far forward, and you do it yourself, and you're kind of like, wow, this feels weird. But then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, this makes the game a lot easier, like
Yep.
yeah, like the one rule is like to be able to see your
Yeah.
hands.
And we're all taught that, but we like to go back to the old Eddie Belfour having it like this,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you don't see them. But when I do notice I'm on my game, I'm kind of in that Belfour. They're there.
yeah,
But when I'm not on my game, I consciously bring those hands back out so I can see them
yeah,
and trust my hands. It's like,
yeah.
okay, boom, boom. And then as I get more comfortable, they come back here and then I got to bring them back out.
Well, it's the beauty of the position is that you can do a lot of things. Like there's,
Yep.
I mean, like you just had Jonas Hiller on. I just watched that episode, and I remember watching him play. I'm like, this guy stays on his knees forever.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I'm like, but is that bad? And it wasn't. He was an all-star. He's an all-star NHL player. I think it's just so cool to watch how different people can play the position still in 2022, and it works.
Well,
So
it reminds me of my first goalie coach, who I'm hoping to have on here soon. I was finally able to track him down, and he said, each one of you are different. I'm going to try. The fundamentals are all the same. I'm going to teach it to all of you, but each of you have your own style.
yeah,
Just as Eddie Belfour, Felix Potvin, Curtis Joseph, they all have their own style. So if I come in to coach them, I'm not going to coach Eddie the same way I'm going to coach Cujo.
yeah.
Just like I'm not going to coach you the same way as the goalie next to you.
Yep.
Because everybody's different. And you got to find what's that style and work with them. And I mean, that's true for anything in life, whether it be sports or, managing a, employee at work. Everybody's got their own style. Just because they do it differently than you doesn't mean it's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. So growing up, I went to the Warren Strelo schools here in the cities, and he was so good about that. That's actually why I started recording myself again, because they used to have a little VHS tape out on the ice.
Yeah.
And you can tell someone that's been doing something wrong that what they're doing exactly what they're doing wrong over and over, but you don't really realize that you're doing it the way they're telling you until you see it on video, and then you can correct yourself because it's so inlaid in your routine and your habits. Video. The other advice to young goalies is I would say video along with advice as well, because it's video helps so much.
Yeah, I started putting the GoPro up behind my net almost as a joke after my son did a Cub Scout advancement where they had to do video. And it was okay, we'll do it for that. And then I kind of kept it up as a joke. But then as I started watching stuff, is like sometimes when I was struggling, I was able to pinpoint things and fix it because of that. It's like, I'm a beer leaguer reviewing video of my games, but I don't want to be a terrible goalie. It doesn't make the game fun. So I can do that, create some content, and not be absolute, dog crap.
Yeah, you feel better by yourself. I mean, you play it to feel good, and winning feels good. I mean, you don't always have to win to feel good, but I mean, is to make things better for everyone. Why not?
Although it was funny, my wife came in my office the other day when I was editing one of them, and she's like, does anybody really watch those? Like,
I do.
Who are you doing that for? It's like, some of them get views. It's like, I even get a comment every now and then. She's like, do you though? Do you?
I'll start commenting on them more.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife is amazing, but I think in the 22 years we've been together now, I think she's been to 3 of my games. One of them is when we first started dating. Another was my senior year of college when it was the red-white game and my parents were in town. So it was like, I should probably go to that one. And then I got invited to play at the Hill Murray alumni game a few years back. And the only reason her and the whole family came was because her brother is a Hill Murray alumni. And so like, they all wanted to come. It was like, oh, you're playing too. Cool. So it was like the 3 times. And one of them wasn't even, I kind of laughed, but at the same time, she let, she's like, yeah, go play hockey. That's like your thing, have it. I don't need to be intruding on it. So she's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I have taken up way more time than I scheduled.
That's fine.
But
I could go like, if you ever need more episodes, I'm around. So
this is what happens when goalies start talking. I say it all the time. Where can folks find you on social or online if they want to?
The only thing the goalies might be interested in is my YouTube channel. It's under Goalie Union, one word. Look at the older stuff. And if I lose about 20 pounds here, then start watching my newer stuff again. So,
and I'll put a link to that in the show notes as
yeah.
as well as the music video.
Put that up
put
there. My
that in
brother's
there.
a big time musician in the cities and globally now. So
it was funny. I was kind of listening to it. It's like that sounds like it could be a closing to the show. I was like, no, if he could come up with a catchy little like song to go with it, we might have something here, but that's great. So, well, thanks for taking time out of your day to chat. I'm sure we're going to see each other at the rinks.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Hey, thanks for putting it on.